Welcome to 15 Minutes with the 5%. I'm your host for today, Brajan Patrick. Today I'm on the Penn State campus to talk to students about the terror attacks, the California shooting, and the growing Islamophobia in America. On the evening of November 13th, 2015, the city of Paris was forever changed by terror attacks. At least 129 people were killed by violence. Gunmen and bombers attacked restaurants, the Bataclan Theater, and the Stade de France National Stadium. The militant group Islamic State, as known as ISIS, claimed responsibility for the massacres in a statement. Another attack took place in San Bernardino, California on December 2nd, 2015. 14 people were killed and 22 were injured in an Islamic extremist-inspired terrorist attack, which consisted of a mass shooting and attempted bombing. Muslim leaders the world over condemned the attacks and stated they did not reflect Islamic value. Muslims around the world also condemned the attacks, and the hashtag terrorism has no religion was created to unite those grieving. The recent attacks have led to an increase in Islamophobia, which is defined as a dislike of or prejudice against Islam or Muslims. A recent study by the Public Religion Research Institute found that 6% of all Americans in the survey agreed Islamic values are incompatible with American values. Donald Trump, a Republican Party candidate for the presidency, said he would certainly implement a system to register and track Muslims in the United States. He also suggested a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States, including Muslim American citizens. It seems he is not alone in his sentiment. Muslims all over the country are falling victim to shootings, personal assaults, harassment, protests, and attacks on their houses of worship. Some U.S. governors are refusing to allow Syrian refugees in the USA because they believe that refugees could be ISIS agents. Stay tuned for the people's response about these unsettling topics. So basically with the recent Paris attacks happening, ISIS taking responsibility for them, it was a very systematic attack because they chose 6 different locations within Paris. And then after that happened, more hatred kind of sparked for the Muslims in America, and places of worship were being targeted. People would see Muslims on the street and attack them, and kind of, it's with that pent-up anger that people have, and they're kind of taking it out on one group without kind of knowing what's really going on. And then you have Trump running for the presidential candidacy for the Republican Party, and he's really backed by a lot of Republican voters and other people who have never been involved in the presidential voting system and who are now coming out and saying, yeah, I agree with you because I have this hatred too and you share commonality with me. So what do you guys kind of feel about the whole topic of Muslim hatred within America and the kind of blatant ignorance that comes with targeting that group?
I feel like this reminds me of like World War II, like when Japan attacked like Pearl Harbor. Like this like history kind of repeating itself, cause like the whole country looked at Asians and Japanese people like weird, and they send them, I think, to California specific camps. So this would remind me of how they just looking at a specific like group of people.
You made a really good point about that, because there are a lot of people talking about how Donald's speech and how he carries himself with the candidacy is very, it's mirroring Hitler's rhetoric of that time period. And it's a dangerous path that we're going on, because it could be leading to World War III, especially with, ISIS coming about. So what do you guys do?
I think the hatred towards Muslims is wrong, because there's a lot of other things that happen in America that's not done by Muslims. Like a lot of the mass school shootings are done by Christians. And we shouldn't have hatred towards, all Muslims because of, a small group of them and what they're doing. And, they handle things in an extreme way. But even with back during segregation times and the KKK, they were Christians. And people were being lynched. African Americans were being lynched, killed, beaten, and everybody thought that was okay. And I'm not saying that blowing up people and all that stuff is good, but we need to rationalize the situation and think about about that. You know, some of them Muslims are good people. So.
And it's all about, like you said, the self-education aspect, and not just thinking irrationally, but kind of having the facts and then making an informed decision from there.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah, of course.
Like, you're making a good point. Like, ISIS don't represent all Muslims, just like the KKK didn't. They didn't represent all Christians. Like, there was some northern abolitionists, like, when we go way back. So, I feel like they just using, like, ISIS for all Muslims. That's, like, it's unfair. And, like, I got family members that's Muslim, so, like, I know I'd be hurt if they was being disrespected or treated unfairly just based off religion.
And I like how you brought it back to history, because blacks were targeted for a long time. And now it's almost like, okay, that's almost died down, and they're trying to push that off. And now here's another group like you guys should target. Let's focus on this so we can all come together and make, you know, America feel more unity, but with hatred. What are your... No, of course, you guys just...
I think Donald Trump, you know, he's speaking his mind, he's being honest, you know, and that's fine. But I think he also is trying to take advantage of, like, the fear that, you know, Americans have towards, like, you know, ISIS and things like that, and using that as an advantage in the race for presidency. So I don't think that's good. And, you know, he also adding fear into a lot of Americans and thinking that, you know, we're unsafe. And, you know, if you become president, you can change a lot of things. And in all actuality, he's not. And he's probably actually making things worse, because he's saying that comments like that, they're actually making those extreme groups like ISIS and stuff, you know, mad. And, you know, they may retaliate.
That's also a great point. Nobody really thinks about that aspect of it. Like, what he's saying is being televised, and of course they have access to TV. They could watch it from wherever they are and just want to retaliate, because it's like, okay, you're not taking us seriously at all. You're mocking us, and you're doing the exact opposite of what their mission is. And so they could be like, hey, now it's your turn to be attacked, kind of thing. So he's treading like very, very dark waters right now.
I'm kind of on the side where I think like Donald Trump is inhibiting like Hitler type characteristics with grouping groups of people or religion as one, like they're subject to do one type of action or commit some like, a specific type of crime, which is crazy because when you think about it, there's Muslims in the army, in the American army, there's Muslims in the American Navy, in the American military, and to ban all Muslims from America, like there's Christians out here committing crimes worse than, just because ISIS is predominantly Muslim, I don't even know if they're all Muslim. Some of them could be Christian, which is part of the ISIS like cult. But like to do that is kind of extreme. To put them all in one group and try to ban a whole religion is extreme.
Do you feel like even if Trump kind of changed the path of his candidacy away from Muslims, do you feel like it would die down? Like the hatred for Muslims would die down, or do you feel like it's so far gone and so embedded in our culture now?
I don't think he started it. It's always been there. People like always looked at Muslim like that's how the whole like airport security thing, the TSA thing started. It started with Muslims or because of terroristic threats. Mm-hmm. So like I don't think it just started with Donald Trump. I think he just like lit the fire back up, and now that he's so like he's on a pedestal, he can say stuff like that. Now he has supporters that they have people to look up to. He has people that want to look up to him. So
exactly. And you said he's on a pedestal now. Do you feel like that's the fault of the media, because he's always televised? All of his hateful comments are always reported about.
I think it's the fault of the media and his supporters at the same time, because first of all, you're wrong for supporting some type of like the ideology of that. First of all, and then for the media to even entertain anything like that, that's ridiculous, because they put it in a light that is like they try to promote it. They don't say it's bad, or they just say this is what he said. But if something else crazy happens, say for instance a school shooting, they put some type of heading or subtitle to it to make it not seem as bad. But when Donald Trump says something like this, it's like, all right, he just said this. Let's see how you guys respond. So they try to keep it as neutral as they can, but with certain other topics, they try to push you to a side for or against. So.
Yeah, it's like a systematic way of reporting news.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like we like blood and gore as viewers, and we like hatred. And when you see that on the news, like as a headline, you're like, oh, let me watch it. But when it's kind of like a happy, almost like feature kind of story, you're like, you know, I'll look at it later kind of
Exactly.
thing. So it's what we feed on as viewers.
Exactly.
I used to work in the airport, and like it's just like with racial profiling. Like if I'm in a white neighborhood, I got my hoodie on, my pants sagging a little bit, I'm walking like they looking at me like a terrorist, or I'm not a terrorist, like a alien of the neighborhood. Like you don't belong here. Just like in the airport, if somebody, I'm not sure what it's called, but they not just the keymark, the turban on their head, and a big beard, they just like, oh, look out, like, and it's now it's becoming like, I don't want to say racial profiling type of thing, because it's like with religion. So yeah, religion profiling. Like now I feel like if any Muslim get in trouble,
They link
it to ISIS.
And that's a shame because, like, say for instance, I'm not trying to be racist or not trying to like exclude one group of people, but a bunch of white mass shootings happened, and it was caused by a white man or a white kid, and they always try to link it to something that happened to him when he was a child or something in his history that like messed him up. But the minute something happens with a Muslim or African American or any, I don't know how to say it, any group of
Oppressed
people,
group.
exactly, oppressed group in America, they try to link it to something negative, which is, I don't get that. Like, that's the media's fault. That's I don't know.
How do you feel about his following that he has, despite his racial remarks? Do you feel like there's a problem with something in the United States that he has such a large population backing him?
I feel like the only reason he has the large population backing him is because that he's not afraid to say what he believes in. And, you know, people, you know, when they think of politicians, they automatically think of politicians as liars. Whereas with Donald Trump, even though what he says is negative, it's what he truly believes in. So I feel like there's a correlation with that. That's my sort of thinking.
Lee, how do you feel about this topic?
I feel as though Donald Trump represents the ignorance within America, and I just feel like even if you look at the group of people that he's targeting or he's kind of discriminating against, these are the people that Americans as well make fun of, discriminate, and come at, like Mexicans and Muslims. So it's just showing the lack of support that Americans have for these group of people. He's not going to say all blacks need to be banned. No, but these are real fear that people do have, and these are a lot of times a lot of people oh, that's just funny, this is comical, but it's not funny, this is not comical. Imagine how these Muslims feel or how these Mexicans feel, it's just it's definitely bullying and discriminating, and it's racism, towards these races, and a lot of people have these are thinking these things, but this is he's saying with what people are afraid to say because they're afraid of backlash and being ridiculed,
So with the ignorant, do you feel like it kind of relies on educating, self-education? How do you feel like we need to change our perspective on people coming into our country, especially Muslims? What kind of self-educating should we be doing to better our country?
I just feel like the problem is we go off of what we see in media, we see on TV, and then the unfortunate events that with the World Trade Center and then the other attacks and stuff. But if we actually go and take a look into these places and see that these are people, these are families, these are, I think that we don't see them as humans. We're not viewing the humanity within these people. We're looking at them as monsters, terrorists. Maybe just kind of seeing the humanity within these people can help, and people understand that these are people too.
So why do you guys feel like Muslims are so demonized in the Americas, but when it comes to Christianity, nobody really allows themselves to see the face of Christianity as the KKK when they were terrorists in their own way? What do you feel about that, that differentiation between the two?
I kind of think about it in this way. For instance, kind of not to get off topic, but when you think about school shootings, right? We had a class discussion about this. No one says, everyone always say what's wrong with our kids? Why are our kids shooting up the schools? but no one looks at the superior group is always overlooked and not addressed. No one can, now when you look at the children who are showing up to school, these are white males, right? No one said, what's wrong with our males? What's wrong with our white males? Why are they showing up to school? So I think it's just kind of like in that aspect that when it's not that superior race, you know what I mean, that's getting overlooked, and it's something like Muslims or blacks, you know, it's like they're so easy to put a Muslim child or a black child, you know, and it's like just about the media. The media definitely just accentuates and hypes everything up to kind of blow it out of proportion to a different, like it may not have even been about, you know, like terrorists, you know, it may not have been about like a terrorist act, you know, but at the end of the day, because they're Muslim, because they're this, the media takes that and just runs with it and creates a whole new story, you know, one that's different from the truth or what really happened, and it just kind of just heightens and makes the hatred grow within Americans, because this is what they see. Like I said, they don't see that these are people. They see these attacks, and they see that, so this is what they base their beliefs off of, you know.
That's all we have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for our next episode.